Yo, what's up? This is Thyraz and this is my Boomkin PvP guide for Battle for Azeroth. I am a multi-gladiator balance druid and this is my crazy fucking win streak back in the day. But do you know what I find more impressive than all these green wins? It's the fact that one team managed to beat us. Now, you may ask, who are these mysterious heroes? Well, I don't remember, but I would definitely watch their PvP guides. The first thing I'll be going over are the new talents and what I think about them. In the first row we have Nature's Balance, Warrior of Elune and Force of Nature. I'm going with Nature's Balance pretty much all of the time, as I don't feel a need for Warrior of Elune. And it's just really neat to start off an arena match with that 50 astral power. At first you might be thinking, well, this is gonna be really useful for when I'm being trained. Well, we already have Oldkin Frenzy for that. If you read on your Moonkin form, you can see that while in this form, single target attacks against you have a 15% chance to make your next Lunar Strike instant. So you're already getting lots of instant casts on Starfire through this. And no, I'm never gonna stop calling Lunar Strike Starfire, because it's just called Starfire, okay? And what about Force of Nature? Well, Force of Nature is Force of Nature, as always. Moving on to the next tier, we have Tiger Dash, which is a worse version of Displacer Beast, Renewal and Wild Charge. And I'm gonna be playing with Renewal pretty much all of the time here. I just don't think Tiger Dash is that great. At first I thought it was pretty cool, but then I realized it just replaces Dash. I thought I was getting 2 sprints. I don't need a faster dash to dash away from enemies, to be honest. I think the normal dash is quite enough. In the third row we have Feral Affinity, Guardian Affinity and Restoration Affinity. I like both Guardian Affinity and Restoration Affinity, and I can see both of these being useful in this expansion. However, you have to consider that if you don't have the reduced 6% damage from Guardian Affinity, you would have to heal up all that damage with Restoration Affinity that you would otherwise have taken. One thing that many people might not consider is that this is gonna cost you globals as well, and this is a really important factor in PvP. When I look at talents, such as this one, I think to myself, do I really wanna be running around spamming rejuvenations as a DPS? And I know that Guardian Affinity is gonna make me a more efficient damage dealer. An example of when I would go with Restoration Affinity is if I was playing Arena and we just kept farming a team, they had no chance killing me. And they just kept trying over and over again. But then, suddenly, they realize they just can't kill me. It's not the right target to go for. But then the next time we face them in Arena, they will try to go on my teammates. And suddenly they figure out the strat to beat us. And maybe they win against us. And that's when I would adjust my playstyle. And I might swap to Restoration Affinity if I think I can survive without Guardian Affinity. But when you play with this, you really gotta make sure to actually use Frenzied Regeneration. It's insane. Just look at this. I go in Bear Form and I just click Frenzied. You don't even need to build any rage up anymore, like you used to. You just go into Bear Form and you click that shit, and it heals you for 24% if you're max health. And I'm gonna talk about these later, but it stacks with one of your PvP talents called Celestial Guardian, so that's really great as well. Same with Renewal, but yeah, we're gonna talk about these later. Also, if you're spending any longer time in Bear Form, it might be worth to just spam some Thrashes and Mangles, because if you manage to get up to 45 rage, you can use Iron Fur, which is gonna increase your armor for 7 seconds. And it's not every time that you manage to get up to 45 rage while in Bear Form, so don't worry too much about that. By the way, Thrash is really great as well, because if you're about to kill a rogue and you know that that rogue has a fucking vanish, right? He's gonna just cloak and vanish. You can go in Bear Form and just thrash him, and you'll put a bleed dot on him. And as we all know, Cloak does not remove bleeds, so if he vanishes, the bleed dot is gonna get him out again. So that's a way to kind of secure a kill. This also works really well with our Azeroth power called Dagger in the Back, which has a chance to put a bleed dot on your enemies and cast spells. I love this one. You need it. Okay, moving on to the 4th tier. And as you can see here, I'm going with Mass Entanglement. I know, Bash is great. We all love Bash. Typhoon, it's meh. I think Typhoon should be baseline, to be honest. But anyways, I'm playing with Mass Entanglement more than I'm playing with Bash in this expansion. And it used to be the other way around. I didn't use Mass Entanglement much at all. But they changed how globals work, and I really like Mass Entanglement now. You can just instantly root and then beam. You used to have to wait one global in between them, but now you can do it at the same time. And I found this to be so fucking useful. I just love Mass Entanglement now. In the 5th tier, it was a really easy choice. Soul of the Forest, it's alright, but I don't think it's worth it. Star-Lord, it's so clunky, man. I tried it just once and it's so weird, dude. It feels really strange to play with. So I'm just gonna go with Incarnation pretty much all of the time. It is pretty fun to go Soul and just spam Starfalls everywhere, but I don't think that's the best playstyle if you're gonna do some serious PvP. So yeah, Incarnation it is. But I will say this, I will try to go with Stellar Drift and Soul once the arena season starts and see how it works out to just go in there, dot everything up maybe with Shooting Stars and then spam Starfalls. I'm gonna try that, but I just don't see it being the way to play. And that's why I picked Twin Moons in this tier, because I think we're just gonna be using Star Surge way more than Starfall. And Stellar Flare seems to still be useless, so... Alright, so for the last tier, at first I was really set on playing with Full Moon. But after playing some Rogue Boomkin games in 3s today, in Skirmish, I realized how much smoother it was to play with Fury of Elune. It was just so easy to pop my cooldowns, put Fury on them, and spam some Star Surges. So I think I might actually be playing with that over Full Moon. It's just gonna make your kill setups more consistent. And I've always hated Full Moon anyway, so I don't like how the cast time is so long for the mediocre damage. And the way I like to look at Fury of Elune is that it also gives me an instant Star Surge from the astral power that it generates over those 8 seconds that it's active. So essentially it's like a full moon, but the damage comes out slower. But that doesn't really matter when your rogue teammates or whatever you're playing is stunning your opponent. Alright, going into the PvP talents, we have a lot of interesting options. There are a lot of ways to combine these, but one that I will probably use 100% of the time is, of course, Cyclone. It is so important, both for CCing and preventing your enemy target from being healed if you need to do that, as it becomes immune to heals while Cyclone. And next to Cyclone, I always want to have Celestial Guardian, for the reason that it stacks with Renewal and Frenzied Regeneration. And come on, 20% more healing, that's a lot of fucking healing. And the reason why I really prefer Celestial Guardian over Iron Feather Armor is that, sure, it's nice to take less damage in Moonkin form, but when you get in trouble, eventually, and you will, you don't really have an oh shit button, except for Barkskin. And yeah, that's why I really like to just have Celestial Guardian. It's always there for me. If I'm in trouble, I just go Bear form. And sure, you could go with both Celestial Guardian and Iron Feather Armor, but I think that's a bit too overkill on the defensive side. So my baseline PvP talents so far is Celestial Guardian and Cyclone. But what about the third one? Well, the third one is more tricky, because there are so many useful options for us. Thorns is just amazing, I love it. But it's not something you always want to have. When I look at these talents, I think about how the best of the best players are gonna react to them. And I know that the best players are gonna know when I'm using Thorns, and they're not gonna keep hitting that guy. And suddenly Thorns is not that great anymore. Or they're gonna keep hitting that guy because Thorns can be dispelled. The same goes for Fairy Swarm. It disarms the target for 8 seconds. That looks insane, but when you realize that it can be dispelled, it's not that great anymore either, to be honest. And that's why I like to go with talents that can't really be countered. They just make my character stronger. So my go-to pick right here is Moonkin Aura. Whenever you use Star Surge, all allies within 40 yards have their spell critical strike chance increased by 15% for 8 seconds. I just have to say this though, I'm speaking from a high rated player's perspective, so you have to realize that thorns might still... It's great for world PvP and battlegrounds, because people don't... They just ignore it. They don't give a shit if you put thorns up. It's so different in those scenarios compared with high-rated arena gameplay. So feel free to change your talents based on the situation, basically. Now, I'm gonna give you some tips on our playstyle and how to deal damage properly. The first tip I have for you is to not let your empowerment stacks go above 2. Always try to keep them on 2 or below. So, what do I mean by that? Well, let's do some damage here to this dummy. I do Star Surge, Star Surge. Now I have 2 stacks each on Wrath and Starfire, right? So what I want to do now is cast Starfire, but then immediately start casting Wrath. Because when you cast Starfire, you have a chance to grant yourself an empowerment for Wrath, and of course the other way around. So if I'm sitting here with 3 stacks of Wrath and 1 Starfire, and I cast my Starfire, I might grant myself an empowerment and waste that, because it can't go above 3. So that's why you want to use the Wrath first before you cast your Starfire. So keep the stacks below 3. Now I can cast Starfire again. Now I have to use Wrath a few times. Use the Starfire. I think you get it. You just have to learn to manage this really well. And this is something you can learn in PvE by doing dungeons and stuff. But it's pretty easy if you just put it in your brain that I'm gonna keep this on 2 or below. It should not go to 3, and if it does, I need to cast that ability. One thing I like to do about casting damage on my enemies in PvP is what I talked about in my other video, and I go way more into detail about this little thing in that video, but very simply right here. When you're casting Starfire, you can just immediately, as soon as you press Starfire, you just start smashing Wrath at the same time, like this. Starfire, Wrath, 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 Wrath. Because if you get kicked on Lunar Strike, you're gonna start casting Wrath immediately, so it doesn't even matter if they kick you. And some people thought I dragged that video out a lot, but I think I added some really valuable information, so it was worth making that video longer. Also, regarding our stat priority, it seems that it goes like this: Intellect, Haste, Crit, Versatility, and then Mastery. And I'm going with what Icy Veins says. I think this does make sense. I know you probably want me to cover all of the Azeroth powers as well, but I do not know enough about those to do that yet. I think I wanna try them out myself in game first, and then I can make a separate video regarding those. Well, that should be it for now. I hope this guide helped you. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments or suggestions on what I could make a guide on next. Maybe you feel like I forgot something here. Then just tell me and I might make more PvP guides. If you want to donate some Bitcoins or Ethereum, you can do that. I'll put that up on the screen. The QR codes. Yeah, I got into crypto. I don't have much at all in it. But if you want to donate some as a motivation boost to keep me doing this, feel free. Anyways, thanks, subscribe, and see you in my next video.